Hello, Internet. This is another new episode for this week for Kopitiam Council. Today is in the 5th of October. But what happened 2 weeks ago, Adi?
Well, in alliance pacts of geopolitical nature that we never saw really coming, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia forming a strategic mutual defense pact, which was caught by surprise. Announced by Pakistan's Defence Minister Khawaja Muhammad Asif, suggesting that long-standing relationships between two countries, both Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, would be alluded towards a nuclear nature, Haffiz. Now, this would set a lot of alarm bells for a lot of people. But at the same time, something else happened, not just Saudi and Pakistan, something else happened as well. So maybe we can talk about these two things at the same time.
I mean, let's put things into context. First, what happened, Adi, is an attack by Israel to Doha in Qatar. And then after that, you have Saudi and Pakistan pact. And then, of course, later on, a week later, is US and Qatar pact. So this is a no coincidence. Like you mentioned, there's a long-standing history between Saudi and Pakistan through most of them economic relationship. So this pact is in the cooking for almost 2 or 3 years already. It's just the timing, the signing is very interesting here because it just happened days after Israel attack on Doha. So it's no coincidence. Saudi, I think, in the driving seat says that, okay, let's sign it now. And they did in Riyadh. It shows that because all this while benefiting from these two relationship is Pakistan through all the very free loan, so-called free loans, bailout from Saudis in the early 2000s and whatnot. Now Saudi look at our neighbor. Doha just gave Donald Trump a plane, yet they still get attacked by Israel. So what guarantee do they have with the Trump administration that so-called wants to protect these two countries? Now they're looking somewhere else to find that insurance. Otherwise, Riyadh could turn into Doha at one point. So I think this is very strategic, and that timing is what very intriguing.
I think it's very beneficial for Pakistan as well, right? Now they have bolstered themselves with a power that, it has not, I won't say military nuclear capabilities, but civilian nuclear capabilities, offset by Pakistan also have alleged military nuclear capabilities, does provide a new wrinkle towards its ongoing tensions with India. Definitely, I can imagine Delhi would be quite, I would say, cautious and a bit worried with what is going on. Taken aback, definitely. But at the same time, I guess this also puts China into perspective as well, because China-Pakistan's relations have always enjoyed between both, given their close proximity and both interests in the region as well. Now, China would be having to curry favor with Pakistan together with another regional power with Saudi Arabia. But at the same time, I guess it also it puts a very odd situation in how Saudi Arabia is trying to contain Iran, right? Because Pakistan is right next door to Iran. Does Tehran feel any kind of response? That would be quite interesting to see, given how Iran has played quite a major role this past year, Haffiz. Its situation with Israel, situation with the US, and now seeing how, and even with Afghanistan, right? So to see it add another uncertainty or maybe a bit of paranoia with Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. We'll see how that kind of maneuver exactly shifts, right? Because Iran itself also nuclear capabilities. So it seems that there's almost a unbroken line of a string of nuclear powers running from Delhi all the way to Riyadh. Of course, you have things like Iraq, Syria, in the way as well. But it still is a very long chain of nuclear powers present in the region, all working with each other, some being not working with one another, right? And also the looming phase that US and Qatar also in the mix as well, right? very, very. I wouldn't say surprising because for many, right, maybe it would assume that Qatar would take a stance against the US, given that Qatar has been very vocal about the ongoing genocide in Palestine, right? For Qatar, Doha, the leadership has always been quite pragmatic. I think, in a way, they also seek to contain Iran more so than containing Israel as well. Even though Israel did launch its attack, I think the eyes has always been set on containing Iran, and the US convenient ally in that regard as well. This also helps that the US also has very favorable relations with Saudi Arabia, right? So it's a very convenient marriage for all trying to, it's all in the name of self-interest at the end of the day, right? Each of the Arab states, South Asia, would like to assert itself in the region, right? It's for them, I think, it's not compared to Southeast Asia. Over that side, it feels like a very much a zero-sum game.
I mean, during the attack Israel towards Doha, I mean, you can see Trump was really disappointed with Netanyahu with that. So I think it shows, Adi, because this signing by Trump to military, it's not a treaty because it doesn't go through a Senate. It's just executive order, so it could be changed by the next president. That's the biggest difference here. So this is like personal make a man by Trump. So it's basically saying to the Prince of Qatar, saying, "Hey, I'm so sorry for what happened with Netanyahu. Here, I give my personal guarantee. As long as I'm the president of the United States, I'll guarantee your security." So that's basically this is saying. But in contrast with Saudi and Pakistan, it's a proper treaty. It's a full blown document, everything laid out, all the details. It's just the signing. Like I said, the timing is couldn't be more intriguing because during what happened before and after as well. And you mentioned briefly about China and India. Of course, India definitely is like, hey, I just had a fight, a bar fight with Pakistan. Now seems like Pakistan has a new bodyguard. So the next time India wants to launch something like they did in May, they would think twice, triple or quadruple times before doing so. So basically, this is a huge deterrent strategy by Islamabad. Otherwise, they could be caught in the same fight again. Because, Adi, imagine here, because I don't think Saudi will give military support to Pakistan because Pakistan basically, they can do themselves. It's just what they need is some kind of finances and a constant supply of oil, which is both of them greatly conveniently at the disposal of the Saudis. And, it's like we mentioned, it's a marriage in heaven for these two. And with China in the mix, I don't know what kind of Pakistan we can see in the next 5 or 10 years in terms of security. Because if you have oil and money Saudi has, and you have the technology advancement in military from China, this could be something big. And no wonder, I think geopolitical analysts also saying this could be the beginning of Islamic NATO. I don't like the word NATO here because not NATO is, but it's the security alliance of NATO like here. So I think Turkey could be in as well because Turkey is very advanced with drone technology. So can you imagine Indonesia as well in the mix? They can bring in their aviation expertise in the mix. So it's so-called like Islamic NATO, but I would prefer if it to be like a BRICS kind of mix because in the global south we are having more same struggles and goals as well, rather than based on religion or certain parts of the world.
I mean, of course, there's that people would like to cite that religious element here, but at the same time, it's the regional element as well, right? Everybody's trying to assert themselves in that region, and that seems to be the ongoing attitude that prevails over there. Rarely do we see a lot of, I wouldn't say the absence of it, but diplomatic engagement between all the parties involved over there is very sparse. And usually you would always see a great power coming in as some kind of mediator or facilitator, right? Either China or the US tends to come in to facilitate any kind of issue between all these parties. But at the same time, Haffiz, when it comes to that whole sphere of Islamic countries coming together, I would say that maybe we have to not be too, we don't expect something too drastic as well. Maybe a more mutually beneficial arrangement would come first until I think I mean, I think the military, I think, would come to address two things, which is the insecurities with Iran and also what is going on their relationship with Israel, right? Because awkward situation, Pakistan's relationship with Israel, well, we just kind of know how that goes. Iran as well, but Saudi Arabia as well has, its relationship with Israel alongside, hitchhiking on top of the American relationship with Israel, puts it very in an awkward situation. Now Qatar has always tried to play that mediator role alongside Egypt, right? So would this display, would the focus be on security, but at the same time, would the focus be on engaging with the region area to address, the atrocities being committed in Gaza, right? Because Trump did make, he did try to force an apology out of Netanyahu, and then trying to put in his 20-point plan. Obviously, there's going to be some self-interest for Trump himself there, but he did make some kind of vow that he wants to be the president to resolve this issue, right? I mean, a very bold statement, right? I don't think America is in the same position when Clinton was president, when he tried to facilitate Oslo, right? It's a very different set of circumstances, completely different kinds of leaders, right? More on Israel's side, very extremes as militant leaders, right? Who wants to refer to violence. But would Trump be able to speak that kind of language to force them to say, hey, this is not good. This is not good for anybody anymore. This has to stop, right? And the plan after as well, right? So would be by securing Qatar by his side, right? Does Trump hope to leverage on Qatar's position so that Qatar would speak on behalf of the US to get the goodwill of the other regional nations, right, to be on board with this plan, right? Of course, Egypt has always been very much willing to participate. But about the other countries, now that we have Western countries fully acknowledging Palestine, right, as a state, can we finally see that talk be brought into action with regional players becoming the nexus of that kind of diplomacy? Would Qatar play that role? Would Saudi Arabia play that role? Would Pakistan, by virtue of being closer to Saudi Arabia with this agreement, play that role as well? And where is going Iran? Iran is, I think, going to be very much a wild card here, even though they have always been anti-Israel. They've also tried to prevent any kind of undermining of its influence by Saudi Arabia and the US, right? So something to be arranged there. I mean, it's very miraculous to see Iran brought to the table in these kinds of discussions. I don't know what Turkey's role could play. I mean, maybe someone could, put it into perspective there, because there's so many networks here, so many nodes of engagement you have. It can be very complicated,
I mean, it's a complicated geopolitics in 2025. I don't think Trump has a monopoly on that. And certainly that man has his eyes set on Nobel Peace Prize. But I don't think so far he's doing very well. And I don't think the Nobel administration would let that happen. But I don't know, It could be like,
let's count it first. Let's see, there's North Korea. He did that. Somehow he wants to take credit for Thailand and Cambodia, and
Exactly.
would he go for another situation here?
Yeah. So, and so on in Ukraine, Russia as well, even though we know it's nothing actually stopping Russia from their invasion. So it's insane to just, have one party over the other and then expecting, a full assurance from just one side of the equation. So it's basically a multipolar world, not just in terms of, diplomatic relationship, but also in military and economic. So it's just something that Middle East should be focusing on. And on top of that, Adi, we are still having genocide in Gaza, which is not stopping. We will talk about a global Sumut flotilla in our next episode. But basically, Saudi, Pakistan do see themselves and very quick on a agreement when it comes to their own interests. So basically, Gaza here left out in the dark because it's been 2 years. It's about to turn 3 years now. Nothing has been stopping Israel from the aggression. So I mean, even though we might be far off from the Islamic NATO. Here again, I don't like to use religion as an axis for a factor of some kind of grouping here, but it is what it is in Middle East. It's the perspective now is just more than ever. You can see in the West, like it's always about the Muslims and non-Muslims, the browns and the whites. It's in the West that's this kind of narrative. But on the ground, it's like the Christians, Gaza also are paying the price. Not just the Muslims. So that's the disconnect of this reality is very, very appalling. And I don't know what else could be done in terms of these countries getting together and put an end to what happened in Gaza, because even seems that even Trump can stop Netanyahu from doing his thing. So that's very dangerous looking at the horizon.
Yeah, definitely we'll talk more about Gaza and Palestine in a bit. But yeah, I mean, the ambitions that are allayed by Trump, right? Like I said, I mean, Clinton during Oslo found it very difficult, Camp David and all that, right? And I mean, you had leaders who were more, I would say relatively more peace-minded compared to Netanyahu, right? And then and we don't even like when it comes to leadership in Palestine, right? Hamas itself has been completely crippled, right? And what kind of leadership is going to emerge out of that, right? Out of a rubble of destruction, I would say a more charged and aggressive leadership, full of younger, disenfranchised people who have their homes bombed, their families murdered, and who sees there's nothing else to what is there to go for? Might as well go take up arms, right? Because at this point, violence is all. A lot of the people in Gaza being is being inflicted upon them, right? So it's very difficult now, I think, to bring everyone to the negotiating table. I think the whole idea now, I mean, it seems that the trend when we look at the UN General Assembly a few weeks, 1 month back, is that there seems to be a shift towards now acknowledging or engaging with the Palestinian Authority, right? Who has always been represented. I mean, has shown their representation at the UN. I think at a certain point we are slowly veering towards how we can get the for leaders is how to get the Palestinian Authority to act as the legitimate representative government for the Palestinian people in Gaza, even though Palestinian Authority mostly focus on the West Bank, right? So with Hamas crippled, right? I think that is where the vacuum of the PA is coming back into the fold after being ousted after the elections in 2007. Right. So maybe I don't know if more leaders are accepting of that, because the narrative back then was, we don't want to. I mean, the ones that were for Israel, right, that were anti Hamas, their narrative was, we don't want to work with so-called terrorists, right? But then when you bring in the Palestinian Authority, will they change their tune accordingly, right? Because it seems that this is what is perceived by a lot of nations that were not in favor, right? That were more close, who did not want to take a stance, would see as the moderate way out of this, right? So would we see more advocacy on the PLO front, on the PAA front? Will Israel or even Netanyahu be agreeable to that? Because we've seen that he has no disregard for the West Bank either. So, but it seems that the option for a lot of other nations is to go with the Palestinian Authority.
Well, we're going to talk more about Israel and Gaza in the next episode. But just to go back to Pakistan, Saudi, Qatar, and US back here, I mean, this could be, I'm going to reiterate, this could be the beginning of something bigger as well. Like, I would not, reject any kind of suggestions that would say after this, Pakistan could go around shopping, for some kind of economic assistance in other countries as well. Like, hey, you want to do something that we did with Saudi? Let's do maybe countries like Kuwait, something like Oman. They could do that easily, but of course, this all depending on the long-standing history between the two countries, which I have no idea about. If there's any Pakistan and Kuwait relations are very cordial.
I mean, we did cover up the Pakistan elections way back, a bit back, right?
Yeah.
So it's surprising to see how stable Pakistan has become, because we did see quite an unstable situation during the election. So stable enough that they're able to have these kinds of agreements with Saudi Arabia, right? So maybe things in Pakistan have changed after this new leadership and after what happened, that skirmish with India, right? I haven't really kept up that much, but if someone wants to eliminate me on that, wants to describe what's going on in Pakistan and what led to that kind of on my part, perceived stability, maybe, go ahead and share.
Yeah, I mean, it just reminds me that because Pakistan Prime Minister is on his way to Malaysia. We are recording this on Sunday, so he probably arrived on Monday or Tuesday. So yes, he is going shopping around, shopping in terms of that kind of what they did with Saudi. So that's it for this episode. Pakistan, Saudi military pact, and US military pact with Qatar. That's it for this episode. Next up, we're going to talk about a global Sumut flotilla, a bunch of ships that set sail towards Gaza. So what happened? Let's find out in the next episode.